Hey guys, welcome. So I just finished my playthrough of SpaceX K2 in Factorio. This playthrough, it's the second time I've played SpaceX. First time I gave up pretty early on. This time I got through to the standard victory condition. The playthrough is 414 hours, and it's taken me the best part of 2 years, I think, to get through this. Just so I don't play a ton of the game. But I just want to give a quick overview of my base, show some of the ways I approached the design, some of the things I liked and disliked, and there's just some really neat things in this mod, and this is a really great mod. It kept me interested the whole way. I really like the way it's designed. I like the way it doesn't lead you into building just bigger mega bases. Even 300 hours in, I was still finding unique challenges which were really interesting to approach. And I don't know, with SpaceX and K2, there always just seems to be something just around the corner. So let's dive right in. Just firstly, real quick, the only mods that I have in addition to the base SpaceX K2 required mods are FNEI, which is great for knowing. It basically just tells you what's needed to make certain things. So for the more advanced items, it basically just tells you how to make it. It's kind of critical for seeing what you need. Factory planner, you can also use Helm mod as well, but this is really useful for designing out factories, especially as you get into more advanced sciences and things like that. I can look at my energy science here, advanced science packs, for example. It's just you really need it to know what you need to bring into your sciences. And then the final mod that I use heavily and I built my base around is LTN, Logistics Train Network. Best quality of life mod out there by far, in my opinion. Basically turns your train stations into provider stations or request stations. I built my entire base around that concept, and it works really well. It cuts down on a ton of complexity around your stations. So without much further ado, let's just jump in here. This is my starting area. Burner phase wasn't too bad. I think if you can't get through the burner phase, you're not really cut out for the full game. I actually kind of enjoyed it, although I can see it getting repetitive if you're let me go into this mode so we can see a bit better. I can see it getting a bit repetitive if you're doing it over and over again, but this area is pretty small. Started here at base resources. This is where my spaceship is. You can see here my early smelting, a little bit of early science. I decided to grow towards the left here for my circuits, and then built this initial mole, which this top part is sort of late early game added on. But this is where I started working on trains, and you can see here this is where LTN really comes in to shine. So each one of these stations is a requester station. This one's requesting steel, and you basically tell it what to request, and as long as there's something provided in the network, it pulls it in, and you don't have to worry about setting up a single train for each route. Basically, we have a bank of trains in these these depots, and these will get assigned routes automatically. So it drastically cuts down on the number of trains you need, and also routing those trains. Now, what is really neat about this is you can have stations that request multiple items. So I use this a lot. This one just requests 3 items. They come in, they get filtered out, and then put on the bus. Here, this station pulls in a whole bunch of items for some making belts. This again, rather than having 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 stations for each item, I have one station pulling in everything. And actually, if you look at my late game mole up here, here we have a train that's just come in. So it's pulling in a immersite, dumps it on, and it's going to filter in. The immersite getting stored in this warehouse here. So this station pulls in, almost 30 items onto the bus. All through one station, and this station actually has a pretty high throughput. Like there's never trains backed up here. So I use this a lot, this idea of having one station pull in a whole bunch of items, bunch of stuff gets made on the bus here. A lot of these are sort of mole type items, so they're put into provider chests. But down here, I'm making all of my advanced materials. I make them on the planet on Novice so I can use productivity modules. This is where all my most expensive modules are being used. Yeah, we got our base resources. So we got iridium. We have, what do we have coming in here? We've got beryllium and selenium. And then I have Vita melange being made elsewhere. And these resources are very, very expensive, both to produce and transport. And so this is where I'm using my modules. And again, these will just get dumped into this one station. This train's picking up material testing packs and taking it up into space. But this one station is providing all of these different items. And I just make sure that they don't get overfilled with, if I go down a bit here, with these conditions here. And it's, rather than having 20 stations, I just have one. The ever cool advantage, I wonder if this train will be doing it. No, this one's doing one item as well. The other advantage is often these trains will pick up 2, 3, or even sometimes 4 different items. So if there's a station that's requesting 4 items, which are here, which they often are, these are all specialized items, the train will actually pick up multiple items and deliver it. So that's another really neat feature. So yeah, Novice, I could spend all day showing you around this place, but I started mining out resources around the planet, ended up predominantly using core mining, which you can see here. Core mining later game actually gives you a ton of resources. And so I have kind of a cool setup here. All my core mining goes in, gets filtered out, pretty much provides everything I need. And then when these get full, so stone's full right now, it actually comes down and just creates matter, which again is a late game resource. I've got 500,000 matter just from excess resources from core mining. This is my early science here, again using these request stations coming in. I've got my Naquium processing over here. And yeah, basically just modular setup of processing, all around this concept of request stations and provider stations with LTN. The only other area I'll show for now, this is my sort of initial rocket area where I built my first rockets. Before I had the space elevator, I would send all my resources in this rocket. A lot of them still do get sent. We can actually just launch this. It's not full, but we'll see it arrive. This is sort of the main starting area of my base when I started to get into space. So if we jump into space now, this is the space base, as it were. Pretty simple. Basically, just built a grid of rail, and then all of my space sciences are just built vertically downwards along these areas. So we've got material, we got bio down here, we got astro in here, and we got energy. This one actually goes upwards vertically up here. And that worked really well. So if we take a look down here, this is the resources coming in. So again, before I had a space elevator, everything came in like this. I have a system to request what I want in space. So anything in here, it makes sure there's always this number available. And then kind of puts it on the bus here. I got my space mole set up here. And then, yeah, basically just each of my sciences. So for example, if we go down and let's show material science. Same concept. I've got one station, actually the station's here, pulling in all of these different materials. And they come in and they get dumped into these warehouses onto a bus. And so one station provides everything needed for energy science, provides, it produces all the catalogs, and then the catalogs and any data cards that get used by other sciences or items or resources get dumped into one train station, which is a provider station, and trains will come and pick up whatever they need. As long as you don't overfill these warehouses, it works really well. The catalogs all come up to my science making area. Basically put onto the bus here. I make my insights and significant data. And then again, stations pull in resources for the individual sciences. So all of the sciences, the final science packs get made along this sort of long bus here, where I pull in my catalogs and make them, and they get dumped out. There's this logic cable here that basically limits it to 500 in storage for each science, and they get dumped onto here into the science area. So again, this is basically, apart from upgrading these labs, it's just been the same setup for the entire game. Yeah, all of the sciences are basically the same. You know, bioscience is probably the most complicated, but again, they're all just these linear buses pulled in from one station, and the catalogs getting dumped out into one station as well. I've got my arcosphere processing down here. I didn't find the arcosphere. I have a pretty simple setup. I didn't find it too complicated. And here I'm bringing in resources. I bring a lot of resources in by delivery cannon, just because even late game, the volume I'm producing was not really enough to have individual spaceships for a lot of things. So this worked well for me all throughout the game. All of my kind of space exploration resources are coming in to this one warehouse, and again, multi-purpose train station. And here I have my spaceships. Basically, this is my standard template design using steam storage. One warehouse goes to where it gets a resource, fills up, comes back, and dumps it out into a station. Pretty much all of these are the same. This one is my Cryonite one, which is a little more complicated, but basically just goes further and faster. All of the others are similar, apart from this one, which I built kind of towards the end of the game. So I think that's everything for space. Let's look at the outposts. So these are all pretty similar. I have my vulcanite outpost. This is the first one I built. You know, really pretty simple process. A landing pad with a warehouse, just send stuff up here, gets dumped into the warehouse, make sure I have some bots and roboports, and I can do everything pretty much remotely. And then just, you know, I find the outpost was really a game of energy. That was always what I seemed to be short of, was making sure I got enough power. So when I had space elevators, it made it a lot simpler, because I could just build solar arrays, which, although I haven't actually built a solar array for Granus, so I'll have to show that on another base. But yeah, pretty simple. And then for core mining, I have a template I use on every single of my outposts. It brings in the core mining resource for that planet, mines it. Obviously, I pull out, and this is the vulcanite coming out, and then everything else goes into basically this blueprint, which is standardized for every planet. It uses up the resources I need locally, and then spits everything else out into these delivery cannons, which come onto Novus to my recycling area. And basically, this is just a high priority station. So anything that gets dumped into here gets taken away right away to where it's needed. And, you know, it's great. Core mining is just more free resources. So that's Granus. This is where I make my Cryonite. This is another early planet that I developed. But it's the same thing, just pulling in delivery cannon. This is where delivery cannon is sending it back to Novus orbit. Also, you know, I do fill up a spaceship for some other planets where this resource is needed. This is needed for Holum, for example. This you'll recognize as a very similar core processing. I use a lot of belts on this planet. You know, some uranium processing, a little bit of nuclear power for early on. The unique thing about this planet is this is also where I mine my immersite. I didn't have an immersite specific planet, but this immersite factory was enough to get me through to the end of the game. These are also the only two spaceships that land on the planet. This was before I had the space elevator. All my other ones dock in orbit. And then here we'll see I just have solar in orbit, as well as bringing in some nitric acid. This I make on Novus and ship it up, just because it was getting very, very energy intensive to make on on planet on the outpost. So Holum, this was one of the more challenging ones. It just uses a lot of resources to produce a very small amount of Holum ingots. This recipe also changed while I was on my playthrough, so I had to make some adjustments. But basically just building through the process, pulling the resources I need. This is my initial base here. I had some early coal energy coming out here before I moved to solar, and I think this has a little nuclear set up here as well, although I'm now using solar. And I actually ended up building a new base out here, which is a little bit bigger with some better modules, so I just when I needed to up my production. So again, nothing really special here, but just you can see my approach to my design here was just basically building the bare minimum for what I needed, but it was enough. And I just ship in resources by rail as I need them. So we've got various outposts, bringing them and dumping it in via rail. And here's the core mining, same as the other planets. Here is a water planet, as well as some barrel, which I end up not using this very much. It wasn't very efficient, but I still use this planet to pull ice off. This is actually my main, this is barrel, right? Yeah, beryllium planet. End up not actually needing that much of this resource until late game. And so this was sufficient. I upgraded the space a little bit, but basically this provided everything I need. You'll see my core mining template here as well. And this just, again, sends it back to Norvis via delivery cannon. So yeah, Aidite, this was, along with Holum, the most challenging. You'll see this base is quite large now. It's expanded throughout the playthrough, but really they're just these mini, these are kind of mini sub-factories, one here, one here, one here, one here, all going through the chain of producing iridium ingots, which get then taken down. Actually, I have 2 delivery cannons here, both sending them back to Norvis orbit. Core mining, bringing in some resources, making some stuff locally that I need here, like plastic, making some nitric acid, but also I do ship that in to here from Norvis, just because it uses so much power, and bringing in iridium by train. So again, a similar base. And then Vita Melange, this was my initial base, which I abandoned because I ran out of resources. So not too much to see here, but basically a mini base, and ended up moving to this base. Similar to Iridium, I've got basically these little mini factories, one here, one here, one here, one here, all going through the Vita Melange process. This one has sort of a final step where you're turning spice into extracts, and this actually is the only one. It doesn't use delivery cannons. It takes it up into orbit and sends it off via spaceship here. So it's just waiting for a ship to come in to pull it off orbit. This also uses a lot of fertilizer, so it makes its own fertilizer locally down here, but I do ship in the nutrient gel from Norvis orbit. So all this is just making enough fertilizer. And then yeah, I got a little methane planet, and I was short of stone for a bit as well. So this is basically just a core mining planet for stone. So that's oh, and before I forget, I almost said that's it. I guess I should show 2 more quick things. This is my Nacrium planet. Ended up using a lot of energy, so I went from nuclear to actually using antimatter reactors, and just because, again, just trying to produce enough of it, and ended up expanding these long belts to get to these other patches. This one's a really long one, and then basically I crush it. Otherwise, you're hardly getting anything in the spaceship. And then I load it and it gets pulled off. And then finally, this is the Victory spaceship that I built, that I just used to finish the game, which was a pretty fun pretty fun design. I had to make some adjustments. As you can see, I'm just under the hull stress of 3,500, which is the limit that I researched to. But actually, yeah, once I had made the adjustments, it worked first time. My previous designs, the biggest challenge I had with this was saturating the pipes with fluid. So there you have it. This was a really fun playthrough. I mean, just this mod is just incredible, and the depth of it, and you know, the idea of creating a mod where you're unlocking completely new elements of the game 300 hours in is just mind-blowing to me. But I would highly recommend it to anyone that enjoys Factorio. You know, if really my key takeaway from this, the part about the game I enjoyed the most, I think, was using the LTN train networks. That again is just a fantastic mod, and I would highly recommend it for any SpaceX playthrough. Building these types of stations and using the train network was a lot of fun. So yeah, if there's any questions, let me know. Yeah, this is the 414 hour SpaceX K2 playthrough. Thank you very much, and enjoy the game.